For the best movie experience, मोबाइल फोन्स और कुछ क्रिटिक्स।
हेलो, मैं हूं प्रतीक और आप सुन रहे हो डू आई लाइक इट, अ क्विंट प्रोडक्शन वेयर वी रिव्यू एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग अंडर द सन. And in this episode, I'll tell you, do I like Chup, Revenge of the Artist? In life, things happen. And even if nothing's happening, that's still something happening, right? So on this show, we talk about things that happen. We get an esteemed panel of highly jobless people to answer the $1,000,000 question. Do I like it? कहानी सिंपल है. बंबई की बारिश में अचानक से कुछ फिल्म क्रिटिक्स की डेड बॉडीज मिलती हैं और उनके माथे पर किलर उनको स्टार्स यानी रेटिंग्स देता है. द होल इंडस्ट्री इज इन शॉक. लोग फिल्म रिव्यूज करने बंद कर देते हैं. अब सनी दियोल हूज अ कॉप, उसको पता लगाना है कि ये चक्कर क्या है. और इसके बीच में है एक क्यूट सी रोमांटिक प्लॉट, एक अंधी माँ, एक साइको किलर और हाँ, गुरुदत्त. सो डू आई लाइक दिस ट्विस्टेड होमाज टू फिल्म मेकिंग बाय आर बाल्की? उस पे जाने से पहले आई वॉन्ट टू टेल यू हाउ एक्साइटेड आई एम फॉर आवर न्यू शो. भाई मतलब मजा आ जाएगा. यू विल गेट हर चीज के रिव्यू यहाँ पे. सो मेक श्योर कि तुम सब्सक्राइब, लाइक, फॉलो वगैरह सब कर रहे हो, बिकॉज आई प्रॉमिस इट्स वर्थ इट. You can check out other episodes of Do I Like It on our website or wherever you listen to podcasts. हम हर जगह हैं. Okay, now coming to Chup. एक तो इस फिल्म का नाम भी इतना अजीब है. कल मेरे पापा ने व्हाट्सएप पे पूछा कि कौन सी फिल्म देखने जा रहा है. मैंने लिख दिया चुप, तो उनका फोन ही आ गया, यार ऐसे बात करोगे बड़ों से. बट फिल्म में इस टाइटल को काफी कूल तरह से यूज किया है. कहानी है दुलकर सलमान, डैनी और श्रेया धनवंतरी, नीला की. दोनों फिल्म बफ्स हैं और दोनों ही गुरुदत्त के फैंस हैं. वन मोर एक्सट्रीम देन द अदर. Neela is a film journalist who's observing these serial murders from the sidelines. उसके अराउंड लाइन से 3-4 critics का similar fashion में murder होता है with the aforementioned stars on their forehead. And the film turns into a cat and mouse chase between Sunny Deol and the killer. अब ऐसे जो psycho killers होते हैं ना, उनका enigma maintain करने के लिए स्क्रीन पे उनकी scarcity होनी थोड़ी ज़रूरी है. वो जितना कम दिखे उनका कैरेक्टर उतना ही intriguing होता जाता है. Remember Silence of the Lambs? 2 घंटे की मूवी में एंथनी हॉपकिंस कम्स ऑन स्क्रीन फॉर ओनली 16 मिनट्स और बंदा उसमें भी ऑस्कर लपेट लेता है. दैट्स द पावर ऑफ स्कैरसिटी. बट हियर द फिल्म शव्स द किलर इन योर फेस इन अ वे विच स्क्रीम्स कि भाई मुझसे डरो, देखो मैं कितना डेंजर हूं. बट दैट डेंजर जस्ट डजंट ट्रांसलेट ऑन स्क्रीन. ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी, इट लुक्स काइंड ऑफ क्यूट. Also, the killer has some form of a dissociative identity. I mean, he talks to himself and buy 2 cups of tea and 2 tickets when he goes to watch a movie. I see what they were going for, but it is written at such a surface level, it's not even funny. I mean, इससे better तो वो उसको शीशे में देख के बात करते हुए दिखा देते. That would have worked better. I know such a mental illness is hard to portray visually. I mean, everything is happening in the head. But R Balki's misplaced idea of DID and alters just didn't fly with me. As for Shreya Dhanvantari, she plays a journalist, yet again. By the way, I think the Quint should definitely hire her, nahi? She's done more journalism than some other names that I can't mention right now. But she's so good. Convincing as the new film reporter who believes in the power of words. But sadly, all of this optimism isn't used very effectively in the film. At the end, she just becomes the girl जिसको एक आदमी मारना चाहता है और एक बचाना. Now, Sunny Deol, जो उसे बचाना चाहता है, he looks charming as hell. And is it just me, या जब भी कोई 20-30 साल पुराना एक्टर कम बैक करता है, they just command the screen so well? Where was this Sunny Deol all along? He's calm, sharp, and plays this cop with a Madhavan from Vikram Vedha style demeanor. Barring one scene where he screams, "Bastard!" That reminded me of तारीख पे तारीख. But क्या करें? अमिताभ बच्चन का एक righteous monologue और सनी देओल का एक चिल्लाने वाला सीन तो बनता है. Now coming to the Amitabh Bachchan monologue, and yes, there is one. Just like all other R Balki films, Bachchan is here as well. And here it's this cameo which brings out the emotional conundrum of this film and its maker. पूरी पिक्चर में the killer, who's also a filmmaker, चुन चुन के critics को मार रहा है. But Amit Ji, who plays himself, says things like cinema needs fearless, unbiased voices for its evolution. Now I love this dichotomy, but अगर यही चीज़ फिल्म के कैरेक्टर्स के थ्रू निकल के आती तो इसका इम्पैक्ट थोड़ा ज़्यादा होता. Right now it just feels like lip service कि देखो भाई ये फिल्म totally anti-critics नहीं है. Because barring this one cameo, there is not much that tips that balance. The other actors did their job convincingly except Pooja Bhatt, who's in this film because psychopaths को पकड़ने के लिए psychopaths की तरह सोचना पड़ता है. Something like that. Can filmmakers go and meet a real psychologist for once? And talking of filmmakers, this film is directed by R Balki, who is not my favorite director, but he's the director I watch out for the most. Matlab, I track all his releases at least 1 or 2 years in advance. Because one look at his filmography will tell you how original and unique his mind is. Matlab, एक picture दूसरी film से totally different है. But it's the execution which take his films away from perfection. And Chup is no different. Premise इतना exciting है and the film opens with a bang. But the climax and the आखिरी का 1 hour doesn't hold up to the setup and the premise. But that's not to say that the film doesn't work as a thriller. I judge thrillers by how many nails I have left on my fingers by the end. And when I walked out of Chup, I had bitten all of them. But not because there were so many twists and turns. अब ये स्पॉइलर नहीं है, बट फर्स्ट सीन से जिसे तुम सोच रहे हो किलर है, वो ही एक्चुअली में किलर है. It's not a who done it, it's more of a why done it. And that's where the thrill is. And even the pacing is on point. I've always liked Balki's use of editing and jump cuts, a skill that he probably mastered in his advertising days, but here he uses it seamlessly to keep the narrative crisp and moving. Also, I like it when filmmakers use their films to make a statement. I couldn't help but notice the Woody Allen is innocent poster in Neela's living room, or a brief text that comes in the final frame जहाँ पे लिखा होता है written and directed by R Balki. उसके side में एक छोटा सा text आता है which I can't talk about right now, but I really like that little touch. And even the general themes this film explores are pretty interesting. He wants us to value the intent and subtext of an artistic work. He gives an example of Guru Dutt's Kagaz Ke Phool, his most personal work. But what would you do when the text itself is something the audience doesn't like? Subtext by definition lies underneath the text. जब text ही लोग reject कर देंगे तो कोई subtext कहाँ से पड़ेगा? And I think Balki thinks यहाँ पे critics का job becomes much more important. लोगों को subtext समझाना. I agree with the killer's opinion that it's the job of a critic to upgrade the taste of the audience. But in a country like India, जहाँ films art से ज़्यादा एक commodity है, वहाँ पे कौन subtext और expression की बात करेगा? So it's nice that a mainstream director is at least talking about cinema being a director's medium and how important criticism is for that, and how reviewers masquerade as critics, which hurts the film and its maker. By the way, if you understand this distinction between a critic and a reviewer, I think you'll like the film. There are a lot of such tiny nuances that the film tries to explore, but they are kind of overpowered by the need to be a very snappy thriller. So, I mean, it works, but I would have wanted to see more of this expression bit. So net-net, Chup is an engaging thriller which gets the job done. But the killer's character stood out like a sore thumb. And do I like it? Hell yes. Chup is not a perfect film, but I don't want my films to be perfect. I just want कि theater के 3 घंटों में they entertain और theater से बाहर निकल के they engage. And Chup does both. So you can definitely check it out in a theater near you. This was Prateek and I'll see you in the next one. But before I let you go, Instagram at the Quint पे जाओ and tell us कि क्या कभी तुम्हें अपने critics को मारने का मन करा है? मुझे तो कई बार करा है. And check out thequint.com to read our groundbreaking reports and videos. So next time मिलते हैं where I'll tell you, do I like it? Do I Like It is a Quint original podcast hosted by Prateek Lidhoo and executive produced by Shelly Walia and Ritu Kapoor. This episode was written, produced and edited by Prateek Lidhoo, and it uses audio from the film Chup with theme music from BMG Production Music. You were listening to the Quint's podcast.